Hi everybody, Todd here, and I hope you're having a great week. Today I have another microphone comparison for you. I have the AKG C414 XLS, a legendary studio microphone, and we're going to compare that against the Audio-Technica AT2020, a very budget-friendly, affordable microphone. So let's check them out. Now, at the time of recording, the C414 is available for about $1,300 US, whereas the AT2020 is about $100 US. So 13 times the price. Of course, the 414 has a lot more features compared to the 2020. It has 9 polar patterns, so a lot of adjustment there. Has a variety of high-pass filters and pad functions available, whereas the 2020 is just you get what you get. You plug it in and that's it. Now, it depends what your application is. I'll be using the cardioid pickup pattern on both microphones throughout this review, just so we can keep things even side to side. Now keep an eye on the lower third below so you know which microphone I'm speaking on. All the audio in this review is going to be done without processing, so you can hear this just as the sound is coming out of the microphone. Now we'll have a test with a number of instruments. I'll also have some different preamps for you later, because I know particularly for the 414 many of you might like to use this with an outboard preamp. So let's get started with the audio tests. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on spoken word. There are plenty of reviews available online for both these microphones with that, but it will give you some idea of working distance. Right now, I have both microphones at about 8 inches away from my mouth. They're pointing directly at it, and of course, we're working without pop filters here or any kind of wind foam guard, and so both microphones really aren't intended to be used this way. A pop filter is really the order, but I'll give you an idea. People, 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 people. And so you're going to get plosives either way, of course. You can clean that up with a pop filter, not an issue. Now, the C414 does come with a foam screen. I'm going to put it on at this point. And now you just hear if there's any difference in the sound when I put that on. The AT2020 doesn't come with it, but they are readily available, so I'm going to put one on that microphone as well. And there we go. So now we have both microphones here with a foam windscreen on them. I mean, they're similar. They're not going to be exact, but this is just sort of what I had available to use for this test. Now, one key consideration is going to be working distance, is the sound of the microphone as you get closer to it. So as I get up close here on the 414, this will give you an idea of what the sound's going to be like. Again, I'm trying to talk across it so I don't create any plosives here any more than possible. I'm going to back off here again, and I'll go to the AT2020. Now again, same thing, I'm getting up really close on it. You can see the difference in the sound as it comes through the microphone. Now as I back away, I'll move to about, this is about 18 inches away from the microphones, and so you're going to start to pick up more of the room sound here. Again, I'm using a cardioid pickup pattern from both, and this room has a lot of acoustic treatment in it, but nonetheless, you're going to get the room sound. If I back up a little further, maybe about 2 feet, this is what you're going to get for the sound. Other than using them for room mics, I wouldn't use them any further away. Now, another consideration here is going to be, how do they perform for detail and clarity? And what I like to do for that is do a test with some percussion instruments. So I'm going to start with a shaker, and I'm going to let you hear both microphones. Listen for the detail in the individual granules in the shaker. And both microphones were picking that up very well. I could hear a lot of the detail. Right now I'm monitoring the 414. Now I'm going to get the Caboss out. That is a little more of a percussive sound, and we'll compare that. And again, a lot of detail there being picked up, very percussive. I will say the 414 to me has a warmer sound than a lot of other microphones that I use, and that's something it's known for. It tends to have a little bit of a deeper tone, not quite as bright in the upper end. The 2020, of course, used to using that, and it typically does a little more mid-forward, a little brighter sound. But of course, you heard the difference as I was going through the test, and I'll listen to them in playback after. Now, listening back to the recordings with both microphones, I'm going to say that the C414 has a little bit warmer, darker sound, whereas the AT2020 is more mid-forward, a little more in the high end. Now, when we look at the logarithmic analysis, we can see a higher density of frequencies in the low range for the C414, whereas on the 2020, that thicker density is in the upper range. So again, that kind of bears out what I was hearing. Of course, when we look at the linear analysis, really just some more resolution in the upper frequencies, and it shows us the same thing. Now, I'm going to say to my ears overall, I prefer the sound of the C414 on rock guitar, but let's check out a clean sound. And again, listening back to the recordings of both microphones, here I found that the recording on the 414 had more body. And really that was filling out things nicely in the low end for me. I preferred it on blues guitar. But of course, the 2020 gave us a little brighter sound, a little more emphasis on the attack. So depending what you're going for, either microphone could be the choice. Now we look at the logarithmic analysis. Again, here we're seeing higher density in the frequencies from the C414 in the lower range versus a higher density in the upper frequencies from the 2020. So I mean, it's kind of just bearing out what I'm hearing. Once again, here in the linear analysis, we're seeing that it's really just greater emphasis on the same thing in the upper frequencies. So no big surprises here. Looking at the direct comparisons, we really see that they draw, a path here between the two of them. We have sort of the C414 a little bit above the 2020 in the low range, whereas for the most part, the AT2020 is above the 414 in the higher range. And of course, linear analysis here, really the same thing. Now, listening back to the recordings of the bass guitar, I'm going to say the C414 has a much darker, deeper sound, whereas the AT2020 actually was brighter, but picked up more of the performance, more of the technique. I actually preferred it for this particular recording, but overall, both are very usable. Now, when we go to the logarithmic analysis, again, we have a lot more thickness in the lower frequencies with the C414 and in the upper frequencies with the 2020, and the linear analysis just gives us that detail. When we overlay the two, just like with the rock guitar, we have the 414 slightly above the AT2020 in the lower frequencies and the AT2020 slightly above the C414 in the upper frequencies. That's why we're hearing the difference in the character. Overall, both again very usable. Here I had the microphones placed just off the center of the cone. The idea being that if we go right at the cone, we're going to get as much punch as possible. If we go to the edge of the speaker, we're going to get as much deep sound as possible. So I kind of try to split that a little bit by going just off the cone, but in any case, both microphones have a very different character. And because I know many of you will use outboard preamps with a microphone like the 414, I've gone ahead and connected this up now to the Universal Audio 710. That is an outboard preamp that has both a solid state and a tube circuit path. Right now, this is the fully solid state circuit path. Just so you can hear the difference with some tube saturation, I'll go ahead and turn that up. And this would be about half and half, so about half solid state, half tube is a blend. And so you start to hear some of that saturation come in. As I start dialing it up here to go fully to the tube stage, now I'm going all the way, and that's fully tube stage. Now you hear a little more saturation from a tube amplifier, just to give you an idea of what that'll bring out of this microphone. And now I've connected the AT2020 up to the Universal Audio 710, again starting out on solid state here, just so you can kind of hear the comparison. And again, I'll dial it up here. This is about halfway mixed between solid state and tube, and I'll closely dial that all the way up to full tube mode. And so this is as much saturation now as you're going to get out of the AT2020 when you use a tube amp like the UA710. Now I've connected the C414 XLS up to the Warm Audio WA73 EQ. I bypassed the EQ section. Now this is a 1073 style preamp, again known for having a bit of a warmer, fuller sound, and again a really popular choice. I thought it'd be a good fit to try with the 414. What do you think of the sound here? Let's check it out compared to the AT2020. Now we have the AT2020 connected up to the Warm Audio WA73 EQ. Again, no EQ here, just preamp only. And you know, the warmth of the 1073 style preamp could be a good fit for a microphone that tends to be a little more mid-forward. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you like the AT2020 or the C414 with the WA73? And with the final preamp comparison here, I have the C414 connected up to the Focusrite ISA1. I have it in ISA1 mode, so that's going to give us the sound of those ISA preamps, a little bit more in the air frequencies, a little driving the presence forward, and a little more saturation. So this is the 414 connected up to that. We'll try the AT2020 as well. And finally, we have the AT2020 again connected up to the Focusrite ISA1. Settings are the same. We're using the ISA1 preamp mode on here to give us that little bit of saturation and air frequencies. What do you think of the difference? If anything, this microphone should be overemphasized in some of those frequencies now, whereas the perhaps brought out those frequencies in the 414. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Either way, a preamp is a great way to add a little more character and tone to your microphone. Now looking at the build quality of both microphones, I have to say it's very good in both cases. These microphones are known to last a long time in regular use, whether it's in a studio or on location, so no issues that way at all. The screen on the 414 actually has a little more give to it than does the screen on the AT2020, but again, nothing to be a problem there. Of course, no switches or anything to be an issue on the 2020. A lot of controls on the 414, but again, durability doesn't seem to ever be an issue. Now, the 414 comes with its own shock mount. It is a plastic model, whereas the 2020 doesn't come with a shock mount. It actually just comes with a standard mic holder, whereas I've gone ahead and added a universal shock mount here, just again to keep things a little bit even between the two of them. But overall, I mean, the quality of the hardware is fine. You're not going to have anything coming apart on either of these. I'm going to say build quality is good, durability is great. The 414 isn't 13 times better built than the 2020 from what I can tell. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on features and specifications, but just a few highlights for you. The C414 is a true large diaphragm condenser microphone with a 1-inch capsule, whereas the AT2020 is not. It's a 16mm capsule on it. Now, again, I've been using the cardioid pattern, but as you'll see, you have a lot of patterns available on the C414, which can make it very versatile in a studio environment. You're going to see the dynamic range is a little bit better on the 414, max SPL a little bit higher natively on the 2020, although we have a pad available on the 414. Equivalent noise considerably quieter on the 414 as well. So a few kind of key things there. Something else to consider here, when you get the 414, it comes with its own carry case. It's got everything all together in one spot, keeps everything really well protected. When you get the AT2020, it does come with a nice soft pouch, but certainly not the same thing. So now we've gone through all the audio tests, I'll give you my final thoughts. First of all, I like both of these microphones for what they are. I'm not expecting the AT2020 to be the same as a C414, nor am I expecting the other way around. The C414 is known as a microphone that's a little warmer, a little darker, and it lives up to that. But it is very versatile with all the polar patterns. I'm going to say if you had a studio and you needed a multi-use microphone and you wanted an upgrade, this is a really good one to look at. There are hardly any more flexible microphones on the market compared to the 414. Whereas the AT2020, if you just want something inexpensive that'll get the job done, this microphone has a good reputation for doing just that. So it's certainly worth considering at $100. Good to have around the studio. You will find a use for it. Now, in terms of specific instruments, I really like the 414 on the guitar. that to me had such nice body and depth to the tone. I would really tend to use this microphone for that application. I actually preferred the AT2020 on the bass in the example today, just because it brought a little more of the performance, a little more of the technique. But again, both were very usable here. Percussion instruments, I found that, again, maybe a little more detail came through because of the sense of a brighter tone from the 2020 versus the 414, but in fact the detail I think is a little better on the 414 compared to the 2020 if I take away the tone. Now for spoken word, I actually don't really like the 414 on my voice. I don't think it fits it very well, and in general it's not known for spoken word as much. It's not really a voiceover microphone, it's really a studio microphone for music applications. Now if you have a singer with a very bright voice, the 414 will really tame some of that sibilance and bring that under control. But if you have someone with a very dark voice, it may not be the best fit. But again, overall, a lot of flexibility here. Both microphones do a great job. Both microphones, I think, give you good value in the price range that they are. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Of course, a big difference in price here, but I think performance shows that either can really get the job done in a lot of cases. Now, if you're looking for other ideas to upgrade your studio, whether it's microphones, headphones, outboard gear, check out one of the videos on the screen. As always, I do really appreciate you joining me today. I will see you next time.